Good morning and welcome to Valley Views. I'm your host, Glenn Edison. We're certainly glad to have you today. And as always, we want to thank BTC Fiber who hosts our program. And you can see these interviews on BTC Fiber's YouTube page as well as BTC Fiber's cable channel 18. And we also want to thank our sponsors, Embers Ice Cream of Pikeville, Nickel Row Antique of Pikeville, and also White Wagon Bed and Breakfast of Pikeville. So if you're in Pikeville, go by and see those fine folks there. I'm sure you'll love what you see and what you find. And today we have with us, Michaela Sellers, and she's a owner and educational specialist of Unlocking Potential Educational Services. I want to make sure I read that and got it right. And Michaela, it's good to have you today, and thank you for being with us.
Glad to be here.
Well, first of all, let's do a little, before we get into the actual interview, let's do a little background on you and some of your history.
Okay. Well, I'm actually originally from Germany, so I came over here back in 2001 to become a teacher. So I went to UNLV in Las Vegas to get my undergrad degree in elementary education, and from then I kind of found I loved school. So I went and got 3 more master's degrees after that, all in education. So in gifted education, teaching students of English, teaching English to students from other countries, and then also some adult training, curriculum and training for adults. So.
Well, what brought you here to the Dunlap area?
Well, we got tired of the big city living. We moved from Colorado about 2 years ago, and fell into Dunlap quite by mistake. It was coincidence. There was a house that we've been looking at up on Fredonia, and we watched it for about a year before we were actually ready to move, and we really wanted to see it, so we went and we fell in love with the town.
Well, good. Well, it's good that you're here. We appreciate you being here. Now let's talk, since you got a little bit of your history, let's talk about your company. Like, when did you start this company, and then a little bit about it?
So the company was started at the end of 2016, and I was still a full-time teacher, but my husband traveled for work, so we were doing full-time RV living, and I needed something to do. I missed the kids, and so I founded the company and started teaching online. And I was very hesitant about it at first because I didn't know if it was going to be the same, the relationships, the things that you do in a regular classroom. And after teaching my first couple of classes, I found that I was actually quite good at it, and I enjoyed it and loved hanging out with the kids and having just smaller class sizes. Like if I do small classes, they're between 4 and 6 kids.
Oh, okay.
So, which is really nice. It builds a community, and it's something that I could do while I was traveling, and so that's what we stuck with.
Well, and all of your classes are online, so or through, so that helps you more one-on-one with the students, even in the smaller groups of 4 to 6. That's close to a one-on-one relationship.
Yeah, it's really nice, and the kids are really good, and I think COVID kind of helped with that too. Not that COVID was positive, but as far as the learning experience, kids were learning how to interact online, and behaviors weren't an issue. Like, they wanted to be there because it was so small. They went from large class size to this really small where everybody had something to say. Everybody can contribute, so that's been really nice.
Well, in a classroom, as you pointed out, when you have a large classroom, say anywhere from 25 to 30 students, sometimes those students who really want to learn get overshadowed by the ones who either cause trouble or don't want to learn. And a lot of times they don't ask, and they wind up maybe falling in the cracks, or sometimes getting behind, and they really want to know what they really want to learn.
Right.
And so this gives them alternatives so they can do the more one-on-one, not afraid to ask the question where someone said, well, that was a dumb question, because that happens sometimes in the classroom. And of course, I operated when I taught school that there was no such thing as a dumb question.
Right.
If you didn't understand, you didn't understand.
Right.
And that's what I do. If I don't understand, I ask a question. And It may sound silly, but it means I don't understand. That's why I'm asking.
Right. And it gives a lot more flexibility. Like, I'm very easygoing. It's a relaxed environment where they're not afraid to ask questions, because it's not sit in your seat. I've got students that are sitting on their couch, or they're sitting on their wobbly chair, or wherever they're comfortable. If they want to bring a snack, they can have a snack. Like, it's super informal, even though we have rules and guidelines, but it's just a relaxed, easygoing environment, so they feel comfortable.
Well, and that's good for them to do that, to feel comfortable. They're in their own setting, so they can be more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're more relaxed, they're not worried about what the next person, even if you're in a small group of 4 to 6, they're not really worried about what the others are thinking or saying. They're concerned about them. So that's a good. Well, now, what are some of the classes you teach?
So I teach mainly elementary and middle school, and I focus on math and writing as well. And then I do some book clubs. I've got a couple of STEM classes put together. I'm in the process of creating some gifted and talented, because that's a student population that's often overlooked. So I'm trying to kind of do something with that, to offer some courses where they can get together and do some things as well.
Well, you mentioned the gifted and talented. A lot of times they're overlooked because we don't challenge them. Mm-hmm. We don't give them. I mean, I know a lot of schools now offer, what they call advanced prep classes, but sometimes that still doesn't give them something that challenges them beyond their capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do. Plus, they also have a unique set of circumstances, right, where they can outthink some adults, but they're still little bodies,
right,
little people, so that social emotional is not quite there yet. So, and that helps them be with like-minded kiddos.
Well, now, how often do you do your classes?
I do them every day. So it's either small group classes, or I also do one-on-one tutoring as well. So.
Well, now, if someone was interested in becoming part of your program, how do they get in touch with you?
They would just go to our website at www.upedservices.com, and they can just message me, or my phone number is on the website as well, so they can give me a call. And I also do some homeschooling. Like, a lot of parents have started homeschooling, and I'm finding that there's a big need for help. Like, they pulled their child out of school, and now what?
Yeah.
Right? It's becoming overwhelming. The amount of homeschool curriculum is overwhelming, so I'm offering a service for the parents as well, where I can consult with them, help them kind of plan out their year. We walk through all the overwhelming things of planning education for their child.
Well, I think that you're right about the overwhelming part, because a lot of parents, they want to pull their children out to homeschool,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't think about all the planning, all the curriculum, and all the things they have to get into.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, well, I'll just teach them at home. You can't just sit down and just do a little basic math, or something. There's more to it.
Right, and that also, so I also work with a lot. So I work with public school children and homeschool children as well, because there's that power struggle, right? Or maybe mom or dad, whoever's homeschooling, math is not their strong suit. So then that's where I can step in and kind of alleviate that pressure, where, take that off, so there's not that tug and pull that sometimes kids and parents get into.
yeah, that's true. Sometimes, having a parent, as your teacher, that sometimes there's clashes there. Because or if you go to public school or a private school, you have the teacher-student relationship where you know your boundaries.
Right.
But at home, it's mom or dad. It could be dad, and they're still mom and dad.
Right. And so that's where I sometimes, somebody asked me at a conference, what do I do? And I say I preserve relationships, parent-child relationships. It was more of a joke, but in some way I do, right? Because I take away that power struggle, where they work with me. Parents don't have to have that struggle, and the students learning. So.
Well, now, you mentioned conferences. Do you go to conferences to not only just promote your services, but maybe to develop yourself?
Yep. So I'm big on learning. But I think I'm done with school at this point, but I do a lot of educational conferences. And this year I tried a homeschooling conference, so I had a booth there and got to know the families. And also that made me realize how overwhelming it must be for parents, because the amount of curriculum in this huge building that we were in was crazy. Like, how would somebody pick and choose? And I know that from teaching, I can't just use one curriculum. I pull different pieces and then make it my own. But for a parent that might not be trained in that might take a while to get to. So.
Right. A lot of I know from my past experience with some parents, some of them thought they could do the homeschooling part, and then when they realized that there's a lot to it, then they said, "Hey, this is not for me. I can't do this." And not that it was the parents' fault. It's just a lot on the parents.
Yeah, there's a lot involved in the planning and the doing, and then figuring out what kind of education you want to give your child. There's so many different methods and theories and ideas. So it's
right. And I was noticing on your website, I was watching a video on not one of your videos, but it was on the Foursquare method of writing. Of course, that writing is my forte. That's what I do, and I enjoy that, and I always have. But I got to looking at the video. I watched a YouTube video, and it's pretty neat how that's done. It's still the same thing: introduction, 3 paragraphs for the body, and then the concluding. But you put it in a paragraph form. And I thought, and when I watched that video, I thought, well, that's pretty neat how you do that.
Yeah, I love the method. I have a lot of students that was one of the things, that's what has been keeping me busy, because, and I don't know if it's in all schools, but some schools are not teaching the writing, like how to write a good paragraphs anymore, or how to write an essay. And so it keeps me pretty busy, to where I teach the Foursquare writing method, starting with paragraph writing. They can spend whole semester with me working on paragraphs, then they go into 3 paragraph essays, and then transition into 5 paragraph essays. So, but it's familiar, because they learned how to write that one solid paragraph, and then so by the time they get to the 5 paragraph essay, they're writing really good essays.
Well, I know in my experience in education in 30 years, a lot of times education goes through cycles, and what you used to do maybe 10 or 15 years ago, eventually it comes back. Right. It's just renamed, and another company's come back and said, here, we're going to call it this.
Right.
And you go, but that's this, and but a lot of times talking about the writing, a lot of teachers don't teach the writing. They don't have time, because all the new curriculums and standards, I think schools, and not necessarily our local schools, but education departments think that we want our children smart, so we have to have all these standards and be higher and better than the rest, when basically a lot of times if you just know your basic stuff, you'll be all right.
Yeah, they're forgetting about the basics. So, and that's kind of where I get to step in and teach the basics, but it's also, which is why I enjoy what I'm doing now as opposed to when I was in the classroom. I was a classroom teacher for 18 years. Scared to say that out loud. But, just trying to teach to the test all the time. Now I'm able to just teach them what they need to know, and I don't have to worry about testing. So it's kind of it's nice for me, but it's nice for the kids too, because I always tell them, I don't give you a grade, I give you feedback, and we grow. Yeah. That's it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's more of a relaxed atmosphere. Whereas in school, a lot of times it's pressure. Right. If you're the top students, you're always expected to perform. And if you're at the bottom, you're not expected a lot of times to perform. You're just, they're trying to help you along.
Right.
And those in the middle get kind of caught in the middle.
Right.
Because some of them do okay, some of them don't, and then some of them are just average, and that's all they're ever going to be is average. Nothing against them. Personally, that's just the way life is.
Right.
How we turn out. Well, now you mentioned you teach elementary and middle school levels, so probably up through about 7th or 8th grade.
8th grade. That's kind of where my limit is.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I have a few students that I do one-on-one or small groups with that are in high school, but that gets a little too advanced for me.
Well, I'm with you on that, because I know some of the high school classes are a little bit more advanced. They add a In some cases, especially in the math, they add a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and when you get into the trig and geometry and all the other things and start.
Well, and one of the things that I found just being out and about, and I just created this class, is a financial literacy class. Because a lot of students have no idea how to balance a checkbook, how to, that's more of a high school level, but I try to teach it at the middle school level. How to make change, how to apply for a credit card, what does the interest mean, what is simple interest, compound interest. So I'm kind of excited. That's a new class I created because I saw a need just from being around and seeing youngsters struggling with those kinds of things.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because it is needed because a lot of children don't understand. I used to tell my children because they wanted to know why they had to learn math.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you go to a fast food restaurant, and I said, something costs you, say, $7 or $8, and I said, you give them a 20, and I said, the person working the counter don't know their math, and I said, they give you back change for a 10. I said, then you go to another store expecting you had money to spend on something. You get there and you go, oh, wait a minute, where's my money?
Right.
And I said, you got to know how much to get back.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to it, not just trying to learn what 2 + 2 is.
Right. Yep. And credit cards. We did an activity in class where, I told them to buy something for $1,000, put it on the credit card, and now you're just making that minimum monthly payment of $50. And I had them actually go through every month making that payment so they could see exactly how much that really was going to cost them. That was an eye-opener for a lot of the kids.
Yeah, I mean, when you start looking at the interest, when you think, well, this only cost me this much,
Mm-hmm.
and then you think, but I'm paying this much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a big difference there.
Yep. So it's kind of a fun way to learn it, but I'm hoping that it's going to sink in back here so when they get to be old enough to have their own accounts that they'll remember that lesson.
Well, that's, like you say, it's needed
Mm-hmm.
because when they do get out of high school, when they become working on their own,
Mm-hmm.
As a student, you just expect mom, dad to, hand over the money, when you need it a lot of times. But when you become an adult, then you're the one that has to
Right.
make the money and hand it over yourself. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a whole different atmosphere. Now, when you, I know you said you have several degrees, but do you also get into the research and other things of some of these things?
Not necessarily research for my classes as I create them, sure, but not anything past that. And that's something where I probably would like to get a little bit back into it because when you step out of the classroom, I've been out of the classroom since 2016, things have changed, right? To kind of keep up with what's new and what's out there, see if it's anything I'd want to incorporate.
Right, because like I said, they change the names a lot of times. They don't
Right.
change what they're doing, they just change the name.
Right.
And you might call it one thing and then they call it another, and when you call it what you know it as,
Right.
they're not familiar with it, but that's, this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I do my research is mostly like figuring out different ways to teach students, right? I love math because there's more than one way to get to the answer. And so if one way doesn't work, let's try these things, right? So that's really where my research is mostly. It's more practical, hands-on type.
well, do you serve more elementary students or more middle school students, or is it about the same?
It's about the same. It's a good mix. I think the writing part is mainly for the lower kids just because their parents are trying to get the solid foundation in.
Right.
And then with the middle school, it's more pre-algebra, algebra, but they also do the essay writing. So
Yeah, because they have that. Well, in Tennessee, they do have it in the, I think it's seventh grade now, just the one grade, and then of course in the high school they have it. So, and they're all different types of writing through. I think it's 4th grade, 7th grade, and 11th grade,
mm-hmm.
and so all three of them are different stages of writing.
Right.
So now in your programs, roughly, maybe just off the top of your head, how many students have you serviced over the years?
Since I've started, it's been over 5,000.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's been a lot. Now, that number went up drastically during COVID because everybody was at home and everybody's going, oh my goodness, what do I do? Right? So, also a lot of parents realized that or saw how much their kids really didn't know. that they might not have noticed otherwise because
Right.
they were in the
Right.
trenches essentially, right? They're like, "What? You can't do 2 plus 2. What's going on?" So, so that's when the numbers skyrocketed. But now we're kind of leveling back out because people are back in school.
Back
and
in
stuff.
school, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's kind of neat because I know that was a troubling time for our country, COVID, and a lot of students were at home, and they lost. I can tell even my own grandchildren how they lost that time, and you're having to pick back up.
Right.
Even when they went back to a schedule where there were 2 days on and 3 days off, it was still being off.
Mhm.
Students don't always concentrate on school on those off days.
Right. Exactly.
You know.
And it was a big change, right? Being in front of a camera and being in the classroom is different. And I know from my teacher friends, they had 30 kids in a Zoom call. That doesn't work very well. You're going to lose them. So.
Right, because some are not going to be paying attention. They're going to be sidetracked by doing something else.
Right.
And I've actually done that some myself when I've had to be on some Zoom calls. I'll have my notepad to take notes, but then I'll be taking notes and not necessarily listening to what they're saying. I'm taking note from what I heard previous,
Right.
and I lose out on what I should have been listening to.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I guess this you like this, or you wouldn't be doing it.
Oh, I love it. I don't want to do anything else.
Well, now you were at the Oktoberfest this weekend. Did you get many contacts?
Actually, I did not. There wasn't much, but I think it's maybe, finding the right venue to promote. I think this was more people wanted to go have fun, have their brats, do the chicken dance, right?
Yeah.
Enjoy themselves. Beautiful day outside. So I had a couple of people walking by, but not many contacts.
Well, maybe next time.
Right.
It might have been the wrong venue. It might have been
Right.
something.
You just never know. So I've done a couple of different venues. I've got another venue actually. It's an international conference in Florida, the end of the month. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Trying to branch
if they're
out
still having it.
international. Well, then there's that, right, with the hurricanes coming and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but fingers crossed that
Yeah.
the weather will do well, and we'll try that one as well.
Well, I hope so. Now, is there anything we haven't covered that maybe you would like to tell us about?
Some of the other programs that I'm looking into, as I said earlier, I kind of look at where I see needs, like with the financial literacy or the consulting with the parents. I am trying to do some learning pods, which was something that got to be really big during COVID as well. But with more people homeschooling, I think that might be something that I'm going to be looking into to see, providing. So for those who don't know what learning pods is, it's basically where they stick with me for about 4 hours a day. We do the basics, science, history, math, and reading, writing together. And it's a cohort, like a group of maybe 4 to 6 kids. I like to keep it 4 to 6 kids, where they would then get together with me and I would teach them. But it would still be virtual. So that would be different because the learning pods initially were designed to be in somebody's house, right? And the parents would take turns teaching the kids. So that's something that I'd like to branch into. And I am missing the personal contact every once in a while, so I am looking for a place in Dunlap where I could do one-on-one tutoring. That's like a public place. Haven't found anything yet, but that's what I'm looking to do because I am still finding some parents want the live interact, the one-on-one in person. So I like to keep it, in a public place where we can meet. So trying to find something where that can be done. That's in the works too.
Well, good. That's good because that's needed, and I'm sure the parents would appreciate it too.
Right. Yeah. So trying to fill different needs, right, as we come across them.
Well, good. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add to what we've said?
I don't think so. I think I've told you pretty much everything.
Well, good. Well, it's so good to have you today, and I appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And again, folks, you can see this interview on BTC Fiber's YouTube page as well as BTC Fiber's Cable Channel 18. And again, would like to thank our sponsors, Embers Ice Cream of Pikeville, Nickel Roll Antiques of Pikeville, and White Wagon Bed and Breakfast of Pikeville. So until next time, have a great day. Hey everybody, this is Glenn Edison from Valley Views. We appreciate you watching our shows, and we would like for you to like, share, and follow us on Facebook, as well as like and subscribe to our YouTube page.